This is Maria. I met Maria, oh, it's a while ago, I think. When was it? It was last October, wasn't it? Yeah. And I just found out about her through Richard Kramer, who left. He had to go to a family event. And Maria is are you the president of that? The executive director of the, help me out there.
Rhode Island Coalition for Israel.
The Rhode Island Coalition for Israel. So without further ado, one second, I'm going to get this on here. And I'm going to get this back here, take it off if you want.
Okay, so tell me what's coming through.
Let's give a hand around.
Great, hello and welcome everybody. So happy to be here, so blessed. It's truly an honor to stand before you as the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Coalition for Israel, or RICI for short, that's our acronym. We are a proud alliance of Jewish and Christian Zionists, standing against anti-Semitism, educating about Israel, and promoting our shared Judeo-Christian values. So I can't think of a more fitting event to be speaking to you at. I'm so happy to see people of different backgrounds here and some familiar faces. Our coalition, we love America, we love Israel, and we refuse to be silent in the face of lies, hatred, and moral confusion. I think this mic is a little wonky.
I'm changing it. That's why I'm trying to get it loud for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So today we're gathering in celebration of this community that we're building of Christian and Jewish people committed to fighting anti-Semitism, or Jew hatred as our organization calls it. Just a few short months ago, you might remember Simchat Torah, when the hostages got released back in October. Let's not forget to thank God for that. Can I get a go God? We are grateful for every leader and advocate who helped make that possible. But as we celebrated, we knew that we had to face the reality that the fight was far from over. The release of hostages didn't mean the war against Jew hatred ended. It had simply changed form. Jew hatred has moved from the shadows into the spotlight. It marches through college campuses, hides behind hashtags, and calls itself justice. It poisons young minds, convincing them that Israel is the oppressor and that Jews are villains. I see it every day among people my own age, young Americans who think they're fighting for human rights, but are really being used as tools in a war of propaganda. I see it also among my own young Jewish community in Providence, and I've unfortunately lost friends. They demonize Israel not because they understand the conflict or the history, but because they want to fit in, to be seen as woke, as righteous, as social justice warriors. They think they're standing on the right side of the oppressed, but in truth, they are defending those who would destroy freedom itself, in Israel and right here in America. So let's be clear, when Israel is in danger, America is also in danger. And that is the time that we're living in right now. So Israel is not just another country, it's the front line of the free world, as you've just heard from someone living in Israel. The same forces that hate Israel also hate America, our values, our freedoms, and everything we stand for. That's why when you see RICI volunteers on the street, we don't just wave Israeli flags, but we have American flags with us.
Amen.
Because we have to bring attention to that alliance. These two nations obviously stand for the same ideals. My parents too, Jewish immigrants from Russia and Belarus, came to America to enjoy the Western freedoms and values that my family holds dear. RICI exists to keep that truth alive right here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. I'd like to make some comments on how I think we got into this situation we are in, what we're fighting against. So we're fighting against something or for something, we have to know what it is, and also share some of the challenges and wins of our recent work. So first of all, let's define some key terms and talk about Israel. Israel was not created because the Holocaust occurred.
That's right.
It's not a European colonialist reparation prize for the murder of 6 million Jews. If you need referencing, go and look at the Declaration of Independence of this 78-year-old miracle, the nation state of a prototypical indigenous people. Why is that important for me to say? Because indigeneity, it's hard to say, indigeneity, like all other legal concepts, have been weaponized, but it has a distinct meaning. Prototypical indigenous that speaks the same language, Hebrew, reads the same book, the Bible or the Torah, and traverses the same land, Israel, and also practices the same customs and rituals for thousands of years. And that indigenous people returned to our ancestral homeland after thousands of years of exile and persecution. So the definition of Zionism, guys, it's not that Israel has a right to exist. You won't hear me applauding someone simply for saying that Israel has the right to exist and defend itself, because that's a given.
Yes.
Every country has that right. You know, nobody's, for example, targeting Japan and protesting their right to exist and defend themselves from existential threats. So Zionism actually means the Jewish people's right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland.
Yes, amen.
So when we're talking about Zionism and anti-Zionism, we have to know what it means and define it properly. Okay, again, it's the Jewish people's right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland, which they are indigenous to. So that state, by the way, is also committed to equality, as you guys know, and that's not just me saying it. You heard it from Stan, and also it's in Israel's Declaration of Independence. It's baked into the mission, values, and vision of this miracle of Israel. This understanding of our indigeneity and continued connection to Judea, because shocker, Jews come from Judea, enables us to reclaim the Jewish story and for us to reclaim the definition of anti-Semitism, which is not a universal hate, by the way. It's a particular hate. Jew hatred. So let's start calling it that. It's Jew hatred. Okay? It's a virus that has mutated over time, developing strains that need to be identified at the time. At this present moment, the latest flavor is anti-Zionism.
Yeah.
I always preferred blue raspberry or grape, but anti-Zionism is what we have now. So these strains, they latch on to the guiding social constructs of the time. Religion, for example, the Jews being claimed as the murderers of Jesus, latching on to science, the Jews as the inferior race, latching on to human rights, that was supposedly created to ensure an infrastructure of never again. So part of the reason that we got here is because Holocaust education failed us. It will never be effective without an understanding of what Jew hatred looks like today in our society as an ever-mutating virus that latches on to society's current religion, the secular religion of human rights and social justice, in order to be able to demonize and delegitimize and apply double standards systematically, whether that's to an individual Jew, barring them from an equal place in society, or the proverbial Jew among the nations, the state of Israel, barring it from an equal place in the family of nations that it was intended to be. And so the intersections of the responses that we've seen since the 10/7 terrorist attacks in international institutions, in universities, in social media spaces, and on the streets, pulled off many, many masks, and now we're starting to see people's true colors. So again, just want to really harbor this point about this definition of Zionism. So if that's what it is, that means that anti-Zionism is the denial of the right of Jewish people to self-determine in their ancestral homeland. Anti-Zionism, it likes to hide behind claims that, oh, anti-Zionism is just, oh, we don't hate Jews, we just are criticizing Israel and their policies. But it is specifically denying Judeans or Jews the right to self-determination, while at the same time claiming to be in line with human rights and social just values that call for decolonization and that claim to fight for the rights of other groups. So again, if you remember anything from my talk today, it's that anti-Zionism is a hate movement, and it is the current strain of anti-Semitism that we're living in today. Israel is definitely the best decolonization project if I ever saw one. So I would like to show a few minutes of a video, because I also want to break up my speaking. So I'm going to watch a couple minutes so you can learn a little bit more about RICI, and then we'll get back to my speaking. Thanks. out there. Thank you. So let's get a little bit into some education before I tell you a little bit more about our work. So we've been talking a lot about Genesis 12 today, and you guys already know that it says, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse it will be cursed. So in my humble opinion, in order to truly bless Israel, you have to know about Israel. You have to know the facts, you have to know where it is on the map, you have to equip yourself with facts so that you can stand up for it. In my opinion, it's not enough just to pray, but we have to turn our prayers into action. And again, that is where our organization focuses. So let's start with one of the most common lies that we're always hearing, and that's that Jews are colonizers, right? So obviously, we know that they're not, but I'm trying to give you some information so that when you hear this from your friends, families, or colleagues, you know how to respond. So obviously, we've been indigenous to Israel for over 4,000 years. Okay, we've been pushed out by all these different groups, but we are the only Jewish state. And about 50% of Jewish Israelis are from the Middle East originally. We can go to the next one. So, Rabbi Henry mentioned about DNA. I included some facts about that. There actually are studies supporting the idea that about 80% of Jewish men and 50% of Jewish women can trace their ancestry to the Middle East. They also confirm that these groups originated in the Middle East, and about 40% of Ashkenazi Jews can trace their DNA back to the 4 same Jewish women who lived in Europe about 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. So that's pretty remarkable. It really shows that we are a tribe. Like, it's in our blood. I am Jewish, right? It's not this made up thing. So God definitely got the right people. I will tell you that. I also want to mention, again, people saying, oh, we're a colonial state, we don't have a claim to the land. Well, explain this one to me. In the Tanakh, one of the holy Jewish texts, Jerusalem is mentioned 699 times. How many times do you think it's mentioned in the Quran?
0.
0. 0. So how can they have a claim to Jerusalem if they don't even mention it one time in their holy book? Okay? These are just simple facts that we need to memorize and equip ourselves with. We can go to the next, and actually the next image. Perfect. I just wanted to stop here. This is just showing in 1968 how Yasser Arafat, leader Egypt and Jordan, declared that all Jordanians on Israeli soil would just magically be called Palestinian. So they just got this identity overnight. I will personally give you $1,000 if you can show me who was the president of Palestine, or their flag, or a coin, or something. I will personally give you money if you can find it, okay? This is huge though. All of a sudden, Jordanian citizens are just Palestinians. It makes no sense. We can go to the next. Yes. So, I don't know if you can see the red in there, but that little red stuff in the middle, it's Israel, little size of New Jersey. And all that green are those Islamic countries. Okay, so who's the colonizer again? Again, if somebody asks you or says they're colonizers, show them this map. Show them this map. We can go to the next slide. Okay, look at the graphic on the right. How colonizers. How come Hebrew is only spoken in Israel? If they were colonizers, why aren't there more countries speaking Hebrew, you guys? Okay, look at how many countries speak English, Spanish, French, Arabic. That's another tall tale sign of colonization right there. Think about how many countries speak Spanish, and who's protesting out in the streets that Spain is an evil colonial state that needs to be destroyed. I don't see that on the college campuses. So it's definitely Jew hatred. Jew hatred, not anti-Semitism, Jew hatred. Let's call it what it is. Okay? All right, we can go to the next.
There's my friend.
Yes, Catarlson, as we like to call him. Catarlson, right? He, always likes to talk about how Qatar is this wonderful place. He owns some property there. There's only about 500 Christians living there, and they cannot practice their faith openly. They live in hiding. And what did we just hear from Stan? He said 188,000 Christians freely living and worshiping in the Holy Land. So, obviously, Jew hatred is existing on both the right and the left, but this is just such an outrageous claim. And then the graphic on the left, how to build a country, what Israel did versus how to blow one up, right? All the hijackings and bombings and all these things, these Palestinians base their whole identity off of trying to destroy Israel. Okay, we can go to the next. Have you guys heard of Al-Aqsa Mosque? Familiar? Okay, so most of you know this, but I think it's worth noting that it's a compound built on top of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, which is the holiest site, okay? And it's controlled by the Islamic Waqf, which is a Jordan-funded Islamic trust, and only Muslims are allowed to pray there. Jews and Christians cannot openly pray there. Let's go to the next slide, so you can see the picture. Okay, so Temple Mount, right? And then about 1,000 years later, the Muslims built the Al-Aqsa Mosque on top of it. So again, who's the colonizer? Who's the colonizer? Okay, we can go to the next. And again, I think most of you know this, but just a friendly reminder that Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, was born already after Jews had existed for 2,300 years. Okay? That's crazy. That is just mind-boggling. So, I think people got their facts wrong. We can go to the next. The second most common lie, I'm not going to go over all of them, I'm just highlighting two in my talk today, is this claim about genocide, that Israel is committing a genocide. So, how come this Arab Palestinian population has grown so much? I mean, look at the chart. The population has grown. In 2023, it was 2.2 million. Okay, that's including West Bank and Gaza. Let's go to the next slide. Also shows the 2024 number. So how can there be a genocide if the population is increasing? It doesn't fit the definition. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So we're not going to play the video for sake of time, but really this is also the other main part of my talk, and it's radical Islam. We have to name the elephant in the room.
Amen.
And I appreciate that some of the speakers have mentioned this, but I think it's really important to understand what we're fighting against, right? Because we want to uphold our Judeo-Christian values. That's what we are here for, okay? Like liberty, the right to express yourself, freedom of religion, all these things that we hold dear. They're not compatible with Islam. And I'm sure you guys have seen the videos about what's happening in Europe, especially like the UK, for example. They basically, nobody can pray in public unless you're Muslim. They're teaching Islam in the school. There's courses about it. I mean, it's really gotten out of hand, and we don't want this to happen in America. So that is a central goal of our organization, is that people wake up to this threat. And that makes us different from some of the mainstream Jewish establishment organizations that will not name this threat. Why? Because they're scared of being called an Islamophobe. Everyone's so PC, politically correct, that they're afraid to be called Islamophobic, right? But it's a real valid threat. It's a real threat to our values. It's a rational fear. It's a rational fear. And again, this is not to demonize Muslim people. I personally have some moderate Muslim friends who are great people. But listen, if I gave you a bag of candy that has 100 different pieces of candy in there, and I say that 10 of these candies are poisonous and will kill your child, are you going to give them that bag of candy? No, it's too much of a risk. So this is why we have to talk about this being one of the most dangerous ideologies today. Because how many people know what Sharia law is?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so most of you guys do, but the average American doesn't, especially young people. So we need to be having these conversations at our dinner tables because Sharia law is a dangerous political ideology that glorifies violence and that tries to force Sharia law on everyone. Yes, amazing, you voted it down in Maine. I've seen some local governments do that. And that's also why RICI is trying to bring one of the leaders of the Muslim reform movement, who's Muslim himself and denounces Sharia law. His name's Dr. Zuhdi Jasser.
Oh yeah.
And we are working hard to bring him to Rhode Island to speak about this topic because sometimes people tune out Jewish voices. You thought coming from a Muslim it might be more powerful, so stay tuned for that. There are a few Muslims out there that are calling out, the dangers of the radical part of Islam, but there's not enough of them, so we also, as allies, Christian, Jews, or whatever your beliefs are, we need to talk about this threat, because it's a threat to our very existence, no matter what you believe in. So let's go to the next slide. I just want to highlight this isn't just something happening in faraway places, it's also happening right here in our backyard. So there's a local mosque, Islamic Center of Rhode Island, that would post their weekly sermons on Facebook. So we partnered with an expert on Muslim anti-Semitism. That's been the body of his whole career. And he has a team that also speaks Arabic. So he would watch all these sermons and translate them. And some of the things that the local imam is saying in Rhode Island, and this isn't just Rhode Island, it's happening all over our country, is really terrible. Like, for example, they're saying that we need to be severe against disbelievers and merciful among themselves. They also said we have to fight the disbelievers and polytheists, and they said this right after that New Orleans jihadist attack that happened a couple years ago around Christmas time, where a jihadist murdered a bunch of people. You can go to the next slide. There was also some sermons that were focusing on being Muslims that were being taught that those who incurred Big Al's anger are the Jews, and those who went astray are the Christians. Okay, this is what they're talking about, and this is what they're teaching their kids. Okay, and then they went on to, compare Jews to pigs and things like that. So again, it's happening here in our own backyards. We can go to the next slide. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just wanted to point out that, there's been so many offers of a two-state solution, in fact, on 5 different times, and, the Palestinians said no every time, and have instead used their resources to carry out more terrorist attacks instead of support their own people. So let's go to the next one, and then the next. Thank you. So obviously the current local threats, we already know, the growing Jew hatred, Jewish Voice for Peace, Party for Socialism and Liberation. These are a few local organizations that, again, if we're fighting against something, we have to understand the problem, what we're up against, and how our opposition operates. The BDS movement, which I think you guys know what that is, tries to destroy Israel economically. Let's go to the next one. Have you guys heard of Jewish Voice for Peace? Anyone heard of it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so a few people. It sounds really nice, but they're not for peace. They hate Israel, they hate Jews, and most of them aren't Jews. So the name in and of itself is extremely deceiving. But they are very well funded. Okay, they're operating nationally. Each state has a chapter. They're on our college campuses. The Rhode Island chapter, actually, they claim it as their ground zero and their testing ground, but they are actively promoting hateful ideology towards Jews. So this cartoon is something that they posted on their social media in the past, and it shows, or it depicts, IDF Israeli soldiers drinking the blood of Gazan children. So this is a blood libel. It's the same stuff from back in history that they are using as propaganda. And again, the name sounds really good. A lot of people think it's, oh, they want peace in the Middle East. I'll follow this organization. They also, I could go on, and actually we created a video where we did a deep dive on this, but they have ties to terrorist organizations. And like I said, they're, operating all over the country. Yeah, they're just really, really terrible. I forget what my other point was going to be on that, but I think you get the gist of that. They're a really, really harmful organization. Oh, I was going to say they also falsely blamed Israel and the Jews for the police brutality in the United States. So like when the whole George Floyd thing happened, they did a whole campaign blaming that on Israel. So it's really, really atrocious. Okay, we can go to the next. So, we talked about this BDS, but it's an anti-Zionist movement, obviously, but it's also anti-capitalist and pro-death. We can go one more next. I took a couple screenshots of what was going on. So the one at the left is an event at Brown University in Providence that happened shortly after 10/7. It was a vigil for our martyrs. And who are they glorifying? Who are their martyrs? The fallen terrorists. Right there on Brown University's campus. So I'm not trying to fear-monger you. I'm just saying that this stuff is already happening in our backyards. So if we want no guilt, I think the goal of this event was to fight anti-Semitism. This is part of it. The next screenshot is from Jewish Voice for Peace, Rhode Island, that they were doing an event about Cuba, socialist horizons, and the fight against empire. So they hate capitalism and they hate America, if that wasn't already clear. And then the orange one is RICI, Rhode Island School of Design, Students for Justice in Palestine, had a reading group, all about Palestinian history, Marxism, and it says this group is open to everyone, but we are strictly anti-Zionist and pro-resistance. So they say they're open to everyone, but they're really not. Okay, and the next slide. Last spring, there was a swastika found carved into the residence hall at Brown University just a couple weeks before commencement. And then the picture on the right, I don't know, have you guys seen that inverted red triangle ever on social media? Okay, that's what the terrorists use to depict a Jewish target. That's literally what that symbol means. You can look it up if you don't believe me. But here was a tabling event that was led by a similar group called Party for Socialism and Liberation that was handing out these tote bags and other propaganda directly to students. And by the way, 25% of Brown students are Jewish.
Wow.
Okay, so the next slide. Last February, there was a non-Zionist Jewish traditions, quote-unquote, academic conference hosted at Brown University that we were following very closely, and it was just atrocious. I mean, there was professor after professor just spewing hatred and lies about Israel and calling it academia. One of them, Adi Ophir, he said that basically Nazi totalitarianism and Jewish Zionist settler colonialism are the same thing. So he literally was comparing Zionism to Nazism. Okay, and he also said anti-Zionists grasp Jewish settler colonialism for what it is, a brutal dynamic of battery, dispossession, and catastrophization, which obviously we know is so untrue. So, next slide. That's why one of our goals has been to support the Jewish students and their allies at Brown University. So we have worked closely with Brown Students for Israel, which is a student group, as well as a group of Brown alumni for Israel who are pro-Israel. And the last 2 years, since October 7th, we had a peaceful presence during Brown's graduation in May. So that's us with our flags, and then on the right is a picture of an aerial banner that we had flying overhead for the tens of thousands of people to see that says Brown for Israel with an Israeli and an American flag. And we're really proud of that because we didn't want to, ruin or disturb this special day of these graduates, but we still wanted to make a statement. So sometimes we have to just think smarter. So we had that flying overhead quietly while the Hamasniks chanted their BS. So we're doing that again next Sunday. I'll have more details in a second, but you all are invited to stand with us. Okay, we're just peacefully standing on public property, not disturbing anything.
If you send me that information, I will get it out to all my contacts.
Perfect.
If you guys want to come, you'll have the information from Sha'ar's Facebook.
Perfect, amazing. And I also have more info at the table afterwards, but you all are invited to participate. I can't tell you how rewarding it's been to have Jewish students and their families come up to us and thank us and say, like, we haven't felt safe, all semester or all year. And they just were amazed that people in their community cared and noticed the suffering that they went through. And this year, I think it's going to be really bad because a lot of the students that participated in the encampments and stuff like that are graduating. So we are expecting definitely some shenanigans that they will plan. But again, we are just peacefully there representing our values. We can go to the next. We talked about BDS. There was an ordinance proposed in the city of Providence. We collected over 1,500 signatures from people against it. It was seeking to divest from bonds with Israel. The city didn't have any bonds with Israel, and it had all these paragraphs of that Israel is committing genocide. So we worked diligently against that, and thank God it didn't go to a hearing. But they are back at it again this year, so we are working on our opposition strategy. Pretty crazy stuff. Okay, we can go to the next, and we can go to the next one again. You might have seen in the video, we've been really proud to partner with the Hispanic Christian community in Rhode Island. So here's some pictures of some of our work with them, but it has just been a tremendous blessing to work with them. They are so devout in their faith. They really love and support Israel, but we were able to deliver a 3-part educational program all in Spanish, covering Israel, from a historical, biblical, and political perspective, so that they could really learn the facts of this whole situation and become walking, ambassadors or pro-Israel ambassadors in their community. So we're really, really proud that we did that program. I don't really see these big establishment organizations like the Jewish Federations and ADLs doing things like that. But it's conversation by conversation that's how you change people's minds. Okay, we can skip. You can keep going. Another one. Okay, I'm almost wrapping up here, so I'm just going to tell you about some of our other initiatives and events coming up. We are really proud that we have a podcast out. If you want, you can take a picture or write down that link, tinyurl.com/RICI deep dive. But we've had 7 episodes released already, where we interview all types of thought leaders, whether they be local or national, on topics relating to Israel and America. Really, really interesting. You can go to the next. And again, these flyers are also all at my table over there, so you can take pictures of the flyers at the table or scan the QR codes if you want to register. But this event is actually happening on Tuesday, May 19th, in honor of Jewish American Heritage Month and Mental Health Awareness Month. It's going to be exploring Jewish mental health specifically, because obviously there's been so much trauma since October 7th. So there are a couple of Jewish therapists who started an organization called Gesher Community Care, which connects Jewish people to Jewish-friendly or Zionist therapists of all different modalities. And they operate all over the country and also in Canada. So that'll be 8 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, and you are welcome to attend. It should be really interesting as we talk about present-day strategies for Jewish resilience. We go to the next slide. Again, there's our peaceful presence that we're going to be doing next Sunday at Brown University. It is Memorial Day weekend, so there's two options. There's a morning procession where all the graduates, walk through like a parade. That's one place where we have our peaceful presence in the morning, and then in the afternoon, when the ceremony takes place, we'll also be there. So you can participate in all or just one if you're limited for time. We're also offering a free shuttle because parking is really crazy at Brown, so we recommend people to park. Again, all this information is on the flyer, but we can pick you up and give you a ride from the free parking lot to the rally. We can go to the next. Somebody had talked about media bias against Israel, so we're actually partnering with Camera. Have you guys heard of Camera?
Yes.
Really amazing organization, totally dedicated to exposing and fighting the anti-Israel bias in the media. That's what they do. Stands for Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting. And we're partnering with them on Sunday, May 31st, so 2 weeks from now, at Temple Torah Israel, which is in East Greenwich. We also have a virtual option to join on Zoom. We're really going to do a deep dive into how this manifests. And again, these are all free events. Really encourage you to attend. And then the next slide, it's just our website and all of our social medias. We're RI4Israel, it's number 4, on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, X, and then there's our website as well. So it was really an honor to be with you guys today. I really encourage you to get involved. We need more people. If rallies are not your thing, you don't want to stand on a street corner, we have many other ways to get involved, events, committees, and different things. So please reach out and visit us at the table where you can sign up for our emails, grab some brochures, chat with me, and consider making a donation. We are 501c3.
It could be the
We're a
battery.
nonprofit, and we rely on community donations. We're not getting any big grants from the government or anything like that to do this work. So if you feel inclined, please do. And again, God bless you all.